They thought they could walk off with a $10 million property because a divorced plumber bought it for a quarter, and, in their heads, a man like me would fold the second he saw a lawyer, and I still remember the exact moment I realized how wrong they were. I'm Ryan Calder, 52, plumber from Flagstone City, living in an apartment that smelled like microwave lasagna and cheap air freshener after my ex, Amanda, took half my tools, half my savings, and left me with an old pickup because it reeked of PVC glue and rust. On weekends, when I was too wired to sleep and too tired to think, I'd sit in the musty courthouse in Granite County, bidding at tax auctions, listening to the auctioneer machine gun parcel numbers while desperate investors shifted on creaky benches. That's where I saw it. Evergreen Crest Lake Cabin, 15 acres, Echo Vale frontage, minimum bid, 25 cents. The picture looked like a horror movie, roofs sagging, glass gone, but lakefront in the Colorado mountains is like finding a winning lottery ticket in your junk mail. So I drove up Route 71, tires grinding gravel, and when Echo Vale Lake opened up between the pines, mirror flat, mountains doubled in the water, I knew I was done for. The cabin had good bones, hand-hewn logs, straight foundation, stone chimney, just buried under rot, and I was still running my hands over the beams when a white SUV slid up like a shark. Out stepped Veronica Ashbourne, silver hair lacquered, designer hiking boots, clipboard with Evergreen Crest Owners Association and Evergreen Crest Lakeside Community Council logos front and center. She introduced herself like she was the mayor of the mountain. I held up my tax deed. New owner, Ryan. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, that's adorable," she said. "Tax sales don't override our covenants. This structure violates 17 standards. Demolition required." I told her the cabin had been here since the 60s, decades before her HOA even existed, that it should be grandfathered. She gave me that look rich people save for stains on their marble. "I'm sure a tradesman like you doesn't quite grasp the legal nuances," Veronica murmured. "But we've removed 12 non-compliant properties already. People like you usually find it easier to walk away. There it was, people like you. Blue collar, divorced, no degree, out of place on her perfect lake." She gave me 72 hours to reconsider, climbed back into her rolling throne room, and left me standing there with a 25-cent receipt in one hand and my dad's old voice in my head saying, "Bullies only understand when you plant your feet." The next week turned into a circus. Her nephew, Evan Ashbourne, waddled up in a reflective vest as compliance officer, writing me a $500 ticket because my truck wasn't parked parallel to the property line. Then came fines for saw noise at 9 a.m., debris bins on a construction site, lack of flowers around a torn-up foundation. Each notice threatened liens, legal action, financial bleeding until I quit. Instead, I went underground, into the Granite County Records basement that smelled like mildew and bad filing systems. I dug until I found it. Evergreen Crest HOA formed 8 years ago. My cabin built in 1962. Pre-existing, protected. I took everything to Chloe Mercer at Bridger & Cole Legal Group, in a strip mall between a nail salon and a vape shop. She scanned the papers, grinned, and said, "They barely have authority over the trash cans. Over this cabin? Almost none." At the same time, I started recording everything on Cabin Comeback Diaries, time-lapse of demolition, power washing, golden hour on Echo Vale, my voiceover explaining what was happening. People online loved it. They saw a guy with calloused hands trying to save an old place, and they picked a side. Then I found a note under my windshield. "She's done this before. Ask the Hendersons on Ridgeview." That trail led to Tom Henderson, buying lures in a tackle shop, voice shaking as he told me how Veronica had buried him in fines and violations until he sold cheap to Ashbourne Development Group, who flipped his place for 5 times the price. Suddenly, my fight wasn't just about a cabin, it was about a pattern. And that's when Veronica escalated from petty tyrant to full-blown villain, accusing me of fraud, dragging in the DA, and trying to turn the whole town against the plumber who paid a quarter for the wrong piece of land. When the Sheriff Daniels, showed up with fraud papers, I saw the embarrassment in his eyes even as he did his job. And within 2 days the media was calling me a scammer, my comments filled with con man and thief, my plumbing clients canceling because they didn't want that cabin guy in their homes. While my name burned, Judge Leonard Briggs, a retired judge with coffee-stained files and a brain like a scalpel, sifted through Veronica's paperwork. That's when he found the crack. The Evergreen Crest Owners Association had never been properly incorporated with the state. On paper, it was a ghost. No standing, no legal teeth. Worse for her, original surveys showed my parcel carved out explicitly. The HOA lines wrapped around my 15 acres like a horseshoe. They'd never included it. Every ticket, every threat, every rule she cited against me had the same legal value as a grocery list. The DA dropped the fraud investigation with prejudice. I went back online, showed the documents, and explained fake authority in plain language. How people with clipboards and titles trick you into thinking they're the law when they're not. My follower count exploded. Locals started posting, "We stand with Ryan's" signs in shop windows. The story flipped. Then fate handed me a twist I still barely believe. Down in the basement, tearing out moldy paneling in air that smelled like old dirt and mouse droppings, my crowbar struck metal. I pried loose a rusted box, popped it open, and found the original 1962 deed, hand-drawn maps, and a folder labeled Subsurface Valuation, Evergreen Parcel. Inside, a geological report listing lithium, copper, traces of gold beneath my land. Estimated 1980s value, 8 to 12 million. Not speculation, coarse samples, diagrams, signatures. When I laid it on Judge Briggs' desk, he stared, then said slowly, "This isn't just a pretty view, Ryan. Your tax deed includes mineral rights. That quarter bought you everything under here." Then Olivia Chun, from Channel 12, added fuel. She dug into old surveyor archives and found that Veronica's father had ordered that same study, then filed it away. Meanwhile, Ashbourne Development Group, the family company, was drowning in debt. Suddenly everything made sense. Her fake fines, her HOA authority, her obsession with this cabin. It wasn't about community standards. It was about grabbing the mineral rights, flipping the land through shell companies, and bailing out a failing empire. Offers came fast. An extraction company called, offering $8 million cash for the mineral rights alone. $8 million would fix my life, my kids' lives, maybe my grandkids, before I even finished patching the roof. All I had to do was sign and let them carve Echo Vale into a scarred moonscape. That night, sitting on the dock, mountains burning orange in the last light, loons calling, I realized this place had already started healing me. Every board I replaced felt like I was patching something inside my chest too. Selling it to be chewed up didn't feel like winning. It felt like losing different. So I did the harder thing. I said no. In my next video, I unveiled the Quarter-Acre Conservation Trust, a plan to allow limited, tightly regulated extraction to fund a permanent preserve. Evergreen Crest Preserve, cabins for ecotourism, trails, and education center. 90 to 95% of the land gone into permanent protection. Profit? Yes, but not at the cost of the lake. Environmental groups loved it. Tourism projections soared. Donations poured in. Now I wasn't just that plumber with the cabin. I was the guy trying to prove you could fight greed without becoming greedy. That's when we turned fully offensive. Judge Briggs built a civil RICO case, stacking every past harassment, every forced sale, every undermarket deed into a pattern. Aaron Calloway, an environmental lawyer, joined to lock conservation easements in place. Luis Vega, a contractor with a crew of builders and big hearts, rallied volunteers every weekend. Plumbers, electricians, carpenters, families, raising trails, docks, and the visitor center. We hired PI Jack Nolan, who dug into Evergreen Crest's books and found money siphoned from community funds to plug Ashbourne Development Group's debts. And then Agent Mia Turner from the FBI sat at my table, watched our timelines and videos, and said, "This isn't just an ugly HOA. It's a financial crime pattern. Your documentation might be the reason she doesn't do this somewhere else." Meanwhile, Veronica crumbled. Equipment got sabotaged. Cameras caught Evan in a reflective vest slicing hoses at 2 a.m. Windows at Cal Martin's hardware got tagged. Volunteers got threatening calls. Insurance bailed. My social media was hit with bots and spam. But we'd learned to outlast. Crowdfunding hit 6 figures. Supporters organized volunteer security. Olivia's pieces won awards and drew national outlets. Other victims stepped out of the shadows. Then one night, as thunder rolled over the ridgeline, Agent Turner texted, "Sealed indictment filed. Be at the Evergreen Crest Community Hall tomorrow at 9." Bring your receipts. Let's finish this. The hall was jammed. Over 300 residents. Cameras everywhere. The air buzzing like static. Veronica sat at the front like a fraying queen, Evan at her side, both pretending this was just another HOA meeting. She launched into a speech about outsiders, fake news, and our peaceful community under siege. She pointed at me, called me a manipulator, a danger to property values, demanded an emergency vote to shut down the park project. I stood up, felt my heart beating in my throat, walked to the projector, and said, "Before anybody votes on anything, you deserve to see what's really been happening." Then I hit play on our timeline. Slide after slide, tickets, emails, recordings, bank statements. Jack Nolan's trails showing money lifted from HOA accounts into Ashbourne Development Group. Old surveys proving my land was never under HOA control. The never-filed incorporation papers showing the HOA was a legal mirage. The geological report proving she knew about the minerals. The Henderson story and other families forced out. You could feel the room shift. People who'd been scared of her looked furious now. Some of her loyalists stared at the floor. This was never about mailbox height, I said. It was about her trying to steal a $10 million asset and using fake authority to do it. And she would have gotten away with it if the cabin had gone to one of her shell companies instead of some stubborn plumber. Veronica lost it, started screaming lies, accusing me of bribing officials, fabricating documents. And that's when the doors opened and Agent Mia Turner walked in with federal marshals. "Veronica Ashbourne," she said, holding up her badge, "you're under arrest for fraud, wire fraud, extortion, embezzlement, and racketeering." You could hear the handcuffs click. Evan tried to slip out the side and ran straight into another marshal, who calmly added vandalism, witness intimidation, conspiracy to his day. Phones rose like a forest. Some people clapped through tears. Some just stared, shocked to see the woman who'd ruled by fear and cuffs. Before they let her out, I turned back to the crowd and pulled up the last slide. Evergreen Crest Preserve plans, jobs, revenue, scholarships, victim fund. The Quarter-Acre Conservation Trust will bring 50 permanent jobs, boost your property values, fund schools, and protect this lake, I said. She told you I was destroying your community. But everything we're building is meant to give it back to you. The standing ovation felt like a dam finally breaking. 6 months later, I stood on the same dock at Echo Vale as opening day of Evergreen Crest Preserve unfolded. Families hiked through golden aspens. Kids chased each other along a new boardwalk. In the visitor center, My Cabin Reborn, posters taught people about mineral rights and HOA limits. Workshops helped others fight predatory boards, and a framed 25-cent receipt hung by the door like a relic. My plumbing business had transformed into a restoration company booked months out. Olivia Chun had moved into a cabin up the ridge. We're planning a lakeside wedding that'll probably feature very petty cake toppers. Veronica got 8 years in federal prison and millions in restitution. 12 families received checks for what was taken from them. The fake HOA dissolved, replaced by a small, voluntary resident group that actually listens. Most evenings, I sit on that dock, boots over the water, breathing pine air that doesn't taste like stress anymore, listening to neighbors laugh where there used to be whispers and threats, and I think about how close this place came to being just another cautionary tale. Instead, we turned it into proof that ordinary people with enough evidence, enough stubbornness, and a little bit of internet can take down someone who thinks a title and a clipboard make them untouchable. So here's my question for you. If you found out your rule-obsessed HOA president was really trying to steal your land, would you take the big payout and walk, or would you fight for the place, the lake, the neighbors, even if it meant risking everything? Tell me your worst LULU story in the comments. Tell me what you think real justice looks like in neighborhoods like ours. And if watching clipboard tyrants finally answer for what they've done makes you feel even a little bit better, stick around. Because this isn't the last time David is going to meet Goliath in a cul-de-sac.